What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast, as we're going to be breaking down WWE Clash at the Castle 2024, happening this Saturday afternoon. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Oi.
And Robert D. Felice.
I'm taking the high road. You can take the low road.
And maybe we should just speak all Scottish on this episode.
That would go miserably for me, so you have fun with that.
Yeah. I don't think people are going to really want to hear my awful Scottish voice when it comes to that, but if you do, maybe we'll do it in a post show. I don't know. We're going to break that down. We're going to talk about the 5 and only 5 matches again for a show that is going to have a 2-hour-long pre-show.
Again, it's going to have an hour of commercials.
Yep. So it's going to start at noon Eastern.
End at like 7.
Truly start at 2 Eastern. And I'm assuming end at 5 Eastern. I don't know. Maybe 6.
Like 5:30.
And they only have 5 matches. So they might add a 6th one in the meantime. We are not even on NXT at this point. Of course, I don't think anything with NXT is going to really influence the card, but the SmackDown episode has the option to potentially add some more matches to there. It's probably doubtful based off of the way that they've been doing these other ones in the past. So I think that we're looking at just these matches here. So, I mean, the first question that I normally ask here is if you do think that they're going to add any other matches, what do you guys think that they might put onto the card?
If they add anything, I think it would be DIY challenging A-Town Down Under for the WWE Tag Team Championship.
Because that's not happening on SmackDown, right? It's supposed to be...
It's a Grayson Waller
just
effect.
A Grayson Waller effect segment, right? I mean, that can impromptu turn into a title match, or it could just lead into that in that kind of way.
Or it could lead into, them doing it the Friday after, but I think we're definitely going to see it soon. And why not put it on a pay-per-view? Or a PLE, I apologize.
At a quick glance, there aren't any other ideas that I can think of that they would add to here, because they kind of have some of these feuds already set up, and some of the other ones, like, sure, they could add something with like Legado and Andrade, or they could add something with Carmelo Hayes and LA Knight, or they could do something with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, and there's nothing on the Bloodline for this.
Yeah, this is like the second show, and I think they're being very deliberate to not do a lot of Bloodline stuff. I think there will be some Money in the Bank involvement from them, but I don't think they'll be on this show.
And so far, Money in the Bank is just 3 people that are somewhere in the mix, right? It's Jay, Uso, Ludwig Kaiser, and who's the other one?
Famous.
Sheamus, that's right. Any other potential matches you think could potentially be added to, let me throw the word potentially out there a third time, added to the card, Cal?
I don't know what's been happening, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other. Maybe Braun Breaker and Ilya Dragunov, maybe.
No, they did that last night.
Oh, was that the actual match?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
And then he killed Ricochet.
Maybe. Oh yeah. Even though Ricochet is going to be defending his Speed Championship later this week, that's losing it, but still defending it. So not quite the killing off angle that you'd imagine.
They cleared him for less than 5 minutes. It's okay. He can work.
Yeah. I think they'll probably just stick with these 5. That tends to be the idea. They might throw one onto the kickoff show, and so it's in which case, if it's just a kickoff show match, it probably doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things what it is. So yeah, I think that the main card will just be these 5 matches.
Seems like that's probably the case. So let's get into that. Before we do, though, we also have to remind everybody to leave your comments below. Tell us what your thoughts are for what we say, as well as anything else you want to chime in about while you're over there hitting the comments section and chatting it up over there. Make sure you also hit that like button. Make sure that you have your email alerts set up for the post show and any other kind of live content we have. I know we had an issue with Peter was saying that it didn't give him an email alert for that, so maybe there's some kind of an issue with YouTube on that front. But If you have your email alerts set up, then that makes it a little bit easier. And you should always, of course, just check out things like the Facebook and Twitter and the Discord server and stuff, which, of course, Discord, hop on over there, drop your comments there. And, and keep in mind the other stuff that will help us out on the monetary side of things here to continue to keep Smark Moment going at least into 2025. When it comes to the Darkcast tier, the Pick a Poison tier, and all the other kind of options, even $1 a month on the Patreon or the YouTube channel membership, or the thanks button, or the super chats, Redbubble and TeePublic are also where you can pick up merchandise, and we will roll back around to that a little bit later. But let's get into those 5 matches of what is happening on this card. At least is what it's currently being advertised. I don't think any of these are going to change, but we have a triple threat tag team match for the women's tag team titles. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are defending against the Unholy Union of Alba, Fyre, and Isla Dawn. And we also have Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark, who won a number 1 contenders match, yet are only in a triple threat match because Alba and Isla were like, us too. And
well, to be fair, they did get their number 1 contender match, and it was interrupted by Alba and Isla. So now they get a second shot in the 3-way.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. That is as much of a little explanation as they can get around to doing that. But this, of course, we've been talking about this for the past few weeks. This just kind of screams of, oh, that's right. Yeah, those two. And we're in Scotland, so let's put them in there. And I think that a lot of people are looking at this and saying, like, maybe they're going to win. I don't think they have any chance to win. I don't think that Zoey and Shayna either have any chance to win unless the plan is one of those 2 teams pins the other team. And this is just a means to get the tag belts off of Belair and Cargill, but it's a little bit quick to do that. And I don't think that they are feeling confident enough in Jade Cargill that they can just have her be a singles person right now. I'm fully going with Belair and Jade retaining here.
I am also going with Belair and Jade retaining here. I will provide what I think is the devil's advocate view of, well, we're getting closer to SummerSlam, so we might be getting closer to them going, hey, Bianca, you want to do some singles stuff again? So, and you do have the out of not having to pin Jade or Bianca. So that's potentially a thing. And if they were to lose, I would assume just give it to the fucking Unholy Union. These belts don't matter. Let them have a moment in Scotland, you know? But I do think Jade and Bianca will ultimately win.
Yeah, I'd say Bianca and Jade Cargill will get the victory because neither of them can get involved in the women's title picture that's already locked up in terms of like Bayley against Nia Jax, so neither of them can make an appearance there. So, and I imagine that one, if not both of them, will be in the Money in the Bank match for the women. So I think that will tie them up, so they won't have to defend their titles at that point as well. I think that this is the kind of scenario where they will eventually drop the titles. I think they will lose it in a multi-team match. Just don't necessarily think it'll be this one. I think this is the chance for them to just look impressive, get a few like hope spots for Alba, Fyre, and Isla Dawn in front of their home crowd, but then eventually either Zoey or Shayna will take the pin from Bianca and Jade just to give some element of protection, because I imagine, well, at least from my standpoint, that Scotland won't be particularly happy with how some of their superstars are treated on this particular show. But so yeah, I don't think Alba and Isla will take the pin, but I don't think they're not winning the titles here.
If they do end up having a title change, where would you guys lean more towards?
Then you would definitely go to Alba, Fyre, and Isla Dawn. Even if it was just for that week, you wouldn't change the titles and have the other team win it on this night.
Yeah.
Part of me kind of thinks that it would lean a little bit more towards Shayna and Zoey, and that they had a plan to put the belts on them prior to the whole, like, let's throw it into a triple threat. But I mean, that's extremely little on my part believing that. It's very much like, if that's going to happen, that's like a 10% chance at most. You're saying you don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of love for some more of the quote-unquote local people on here, I know that we are all going to agree on this one. No way in hell is Piper Niven winning that WWE Women's title from Bayley.
No.
Absolutely not happening.
No.
That's a shame because Piper Niven is good, and she is somebody that if they actually built her up properly and they decided they wanted to push her, then she would make sense. I still don't know why that whole thing with the NXT UK title didn't happen in a way that would have made more sense. But
it was the NXT UK title.
Yeah, well, the more reason why she should have just been allowed to beat Kaylee Ray, you know? But
yeah,
they decided not to do it, and if they didn't do it then, they certainly aren't going to do it now. Bayley is, you guys might agree, might disagree. I think she's having an incredibly boring and bland and uninteresting, kind of useless title reign so far. And Piper Niven's there to be quite literally, you are somebody that is more connected to this area. You can kill some time and lose.
I'd say that there's a dual purpose to this match with Piper. First of all, it is in Scotland, so yeah, you do get the Scottish person gets to have a big match on the show, and then just immediately then thrown back into the undercard where they've firmly locked Piper Niven in. But it's also to demonstrate that it's a comparable foe to Nia Jax. Yes. Piper Niven. So the idea they'll tell the same story here with Bayley overcoming the larger and more like powerhouse Piper Niven to demonstrate of I'm just beat Piper Niven, I can do the same thing to you as well. So it will feel more quote unquote impactful when she loses to Nia Jax at SummerSlam for the title. But yeah, that's probably the other purpose. I am quite interested to see what the crowd reaction to this would be, because of course Piper is from Scotland, so you'd imagine she'd get a good reaction there. But Bayley is probably the area of the world where she is most beloved is in the UK. So I think that she'll actually get the babyface treatment in this match, or it'll be treated as a face versus face match.
Kind of like instead of boo yeah, it'll be yeah.
Oh yes, put it this way: I wouldn't imagine that the first chant that takes place during this match is the "Hey Bayley" chant, rather than anything that's Piper related.
I could see that happen. That makes sense.
Yeah, and to answer your point about Bayley's reign being incredibly boring and lackluster, I have to unfortunately say, I think you could say that about any champion right now, with the exception of maybe Sami, because he's got this story with Chad, and you'd be probably on the nose.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. I think that, again, as I'm not watching week to week and all that other stuff, but I don't hear or feel any buzz surrounding any champion outside of the Sami Zayn thing because of what he's doing with Chad Gable. Maybe Cody, because Cody's a big deal and Cody's like a big star still. But everyone else, it's a bit, you know, unless I wasn't tracking stuff for like the Fantasy League and what have you, I probably wouldn't know who some of the champions are. That's how kind of irrelevant they are. I think they've done an awful job following up on Bayley's stuff, because they've essentially just relegated her to the mid card despite being world champion, because they've put a lot of their attention on Nia Jax and Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They're kind of the stars of the brand, and Bayley's just kind of loitering around finding something to do. And fundamentally, like, they've shown pretty much ever since she's won the Royal Rumble that they don't position Bayley as a star. Like, she's never on any posters. She's never in like a featured segment on any show that she's part of. She's not part of these press conferences or anything along those lines. She's just kind of there doing whatever Bayley does.
Yeah, she's actually advertised for the one on Friday, for the press conference on Friday, and I laughed because I said to the person I watch these shows with, I'm like, oh, good, they remembered that she's champion. And but of course, they only remembered that she's champion because she's going up against Piper, and they want to have Piper be like, hey, look, it's Scotland's own Piper Niven. That being said, I think every champion they have works for me, with the exception of Awesome Truth. Like, they have the right people in the right spots. It's this painful thing where they're telling you that they don't care about anybody except for, like I said, Sami with Chad and maybe Liv, because people are really into this Liv thing, but Liv's not even on this card.
And Liv is more so reactive to Dom. Like, there's nothing that like Liv is doing on her own that's making it interesting. It's her interactions with Dominic Mysterio. So her being champion has no bearing on it.
Oh, what you're saying? You're not excited for that Liv Morgan Zelina Vega match at Money in the Bank?
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of setting that up. Yeah.
You think they're giving them Money in the Bank? I thought that was a Raw match. I don't even think they're giving them Money in the Bank.
Oh, either way, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. I just imagine they would put one women's title match on Money in the Bank. I don't think that they'll do the SmackDown one because they already know what they won't do Bayley defending the title and Money in the Bank because they already know what her opponent is for SummerSlam.
I can see Bayley doing a handicap against Chelsea and Piper.
Yeah, like that. Oh yeah, they've done that.
Chelsea does live.
Like similar in the past.
Chelsea is from Canada, and as we've firmly established here, it's just a matter of, hey, you are from area. Would you like title match?
And then for some reason they have people that are specifically in those areas, and then they don't use them. I mean, we know by now that Bronson Reed was supposed to be challenging Seth Rollins, so that wasn't like, a matter of creative or something. But sometimes it still just worked out that way, where they were just like, yeah, we don't really care.
I would have thought that, you literally would have hoped, and they clearly demonstrated they don't care about this, but like they know that they're coming to Scotland at some point. Surely you might spend, a month or a month and a half or 2 months even building up Piper with some victories before she returns it, so it feels natural rather than just a forced, oh yeah, Scottish woman has match in Scotland. Because this whole feud has just been based off a backstage segment that Piper and Chelsea had with Bayley about a month or so ago that just devolved into some matches and name calling, and then just gets into this. It's just a really, just a really sloppy way of approaching these things. But it's commonplace.
The women's tag thing where it's just literally, oh my god, it's Alba, Fyre, and Isla Dawn.
I know. I know, but at least like you say, the women's tag titles never meant anything. You would hope that at least with like one of their women's titles, they would, try a little harder. I mean, it wouldn't have taken much. All you just have to do is have Piper Niven beat, 2 people on the roster, like have her beat Naomi or beat I don't know. It's hard to pick out a few other ones, but like, I don't know, B-Fab or something. Just have her squash them in matches. Just say like, oh look, she's winning matches really easily, and then she goes up to face Bayley and loses. Just because it just doesn't feel like she's particularly credible. Because, well, and as I say, we all know that she's going to lose this one, despite it being in her home country, because like she never wins anything or anything of note outside of the tag titles. So.
Yeah, you were saying before about like it feels like none of the champions really matter right now and all. I can speak to, I don't know if I would say more casual or at least like less dedicated to analysis. 2 fan points. I've said before how there's a couple people in my building that really like wrestling, and when I was here with Drew the other day, we ended up like bumping into them at the in the lobby, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Drew, this is like these are 2 guys that really like wrestling," and like, "Yeah, it's my buddy from the podcast and stuff." So of course they immediately started talking my ear off and Drew's ear off, and the one thing that one of them said to like kickstart the whole conversation is, we were just talking about how they need Roman back. And that nothing happened at NXT Battleground.
So it's hard because I understand that sentiment, but I also think at this point it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. On both the people who book it and the fan side, because it's like, if you're just gonna default to that, and if your booking style is just gonna default to wait till SummerSlam, if your fan mindset's going to default to wait till SummerSlam, well then fuck, I guess we're waiting till SummerSlam, aren't we, guys? You know, like at some point you need to do a little bit more. I'm hoping that this Uncle Howdy shit, which by the way, very glad that's going to be over with the QR code shit next week, because that's just a pain in the ass to follow. But I'm hoping that jolts some life into some people, and I'm hoping that, like, hey, now it feels fresh again, because you mentioned what you said about Bayley, and unfortunately you can almost say that about Cody, and that's weird because he was the biggest thing in the whole company leading up to defeating Roman Reigns. And just because he's there every week, it feels like he's less than. Like we are way too trained on the idea of, in order to feel like a big deal, you got to be around like 4 months out of the year. Otherwise, you're not a big deal. You're just
you pop up and you end up being in one of those like guest roles where it's like The Rock, where it's like, okay, you're a big deal because you're not around all the time.
Yeah. Sucks. So
Piper Niven and Bayley. We are all going with Bayley. That's not in the slightest bit surprising. I think we're probably going to be across the board here, have the same opinions about a lot of these matches, but we might disagree on this one. Chad Gable going up against Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. I am less confident about this now than I was a couple weeks ago. But I thought what we were going to get here is the dissolution of Alpha Academy and the Creed brothers stepping in, fulfilling that role that Chad Gable wants them to fill of like his cronies and helping him win the title. But they do not seem to be wanting to actually tease anything with the Creed brothers. And they're just dragging out the whole, is Otis going to turn on Chad? They do the same thing like 6 different times.
So they are teasing with the Creeds, but they're teasing in the most subtle, like up there they are again in the background of this one shot, communicating. They haven't actually done anything in the foreground. That being said, you could still pod shot it and just say, yeah, I got tired of you guys screwing up, so I had the Creeds as backup help me win the Intercontinental title. But it's weird because I'm into this angle because everybody seems to be kind of feeling it, and at least if the live crowd comes alive, it feels better. But I can't say I'm super jolly about the eventual Chad Gable versus Otis Intercontinental Championship match. I do want to see Chad Gable eventually win this belt, and it does feel like if he doesn't win it here, then you got to move on. So that my brain is kind of saying, let's go with Chad on this one. But I don't think they've done enough to solidify that we're going with Chad.
I think the fact that reports are now circulating that Chad is almost certainly going to re-sign with WWE, which is to be expected. I think that that's probably put the seal on the fact that he'll win the title here. I think they've gone long enough with his story of like failing to win it against Gunther and then having to claw his way into this situation with Sami, and they've delayed it for a couple of months. I think you have to culminate or at least extend this part of the story by having Chad Gable win the championship. And I don't know whether it will take the full process of having the Creeds come in and replace Alpha Academy, like everyone from Alpha Academy leaves him. I think that I could see a scenario where everyone except Otis leaves Chad Gable's side. The reason I would say that is because I don't think you want to waste that pop and still have Gable win the match. I think you want to you have Otis turn on him by knocking him down or whatever, and the crowd goes wild. But then it's Chad still wins. It feels like it's like, okay, well, him turning on Chad didn't mean anything. So I think you need to have it be more of a detriment to Chad overall. So you could have a thing of like, Akira and Maxine decides to turn his back, but Otis is still reluctant to do it. Maybe he kind of walks away but doesn't do anything physical to Gable, and then the Creeds come in and help Gable beat Zayn. But I think that we're very likely going to have a title change here. And then you'll have I think Otis will probably win the Intercontinental title off the back of this. He'll
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I could see him beating Gable for the title at SummerSlam, and then have a short title reign and Gable wins it back, and then goes on a more extended title reign off the back of it. But yeah, I think that the real kind of linchpin of the story has been Otis, so I think he deserves to be rewarded off the back of it. But I think in order for that to happen, you need to have Gable first win the championship, and so that happens here.
It was a small thing, but I really enjoyed last night on Raw. Otis actually mentioning losing Mandy,
briefcase, his peach and the briefcase,
and Tucker. Like, I thought that was like a nice touch as to why. Okay, yeah, I am gonna stick by Chad.
Yeah, I mean they rarely ever mention people that have been like released, and then they tend to not, even more so, people that have been released years ago and were not high up on, they mention people, they'll bring up Ric Flair or something like that, sure, but like Tucker never really actually even broke out into the mid card. So for them to keep the continuity up, it's like, oh hey, look at that, you remember that history exists. So it's interesting enough that's like, that's a thing. But
I think, especially after this conversation, I gotta go with Chad winning it.
I'm still leaning a little bit more towards Chad. Yeah. What about you, Cal?
Oh yeah, Chad's gonna win.
Hopefully so, because if they don't, and they end up just having Sami Zayn retain, I think the only thing that they can get out of this is if Otis turns on Chad. And then at that point, Chad's probably never winning that Intercontinental title.
Unless they use the excuse that Otis turned on him as to get him to complain for one final shot.
One more match?
Yeah, essentially. That's the story they're doing. Except Christian actually got the title for 48 hours.
So now, which of these two world title matches do you guys think is going to go on last? Are we going the Cody thing because it's Cody? Or are we going the one that's Drew?
And the Scottish guy on it.
Well, there's a stipulation on both, kind of.
I'd say the one with the Scottish guy in it.
Because that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Well, no, because I'd say they're going to piss you off in that match. So I'm going to go with the Cody one, so we can be happy at the end.
It's tough because I'll put it this way. Let's keep it simple. We're all going Cody Rhodes retains, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the I Quit match for the Undisputed WWE title, Cody Rhodes against AJ Styles. Styles had his little Mark Henry moment where he was pretending like he's going to retire. Look at that. Actually, I'm not. So now we can cross off both the salmon jacket and like the periwinkle jacket or something.
The powder blue jacket.
Powder blue. And that set up Cody saying that he didn't want to just actually beat him, but he wants to make him say, I quit. The way that he should have said last week, being, whatever. Thought that was a pretty nice touch. And an I Quit match at least bumps things up. Like, I've said a million different times, if you're going to do rematches, you have to include something that makes it feel a little bit different instead of just a full-on rerun. I don't know if these two having an I Quit match is exactly the road that I would have taken, but I'm down for that more so than if they would have done like a steel cage match or a kind of a stick on a pole match or whatever the heck, I mean? So an I Quit match, I don't know how Cody is planning to win an I Quit match without having a submission finisher or any kind of like go-to thing, whereas Styles, we know, has the calf crusher. Or actually, what do they call it? The calf crusher, right? Because it was calf killer before.
It was calf killer, yeah.
So at least there's that little element too of being like, all right, AJ Styles is desperate and he has a finisher that's a submission, so that makes more sense. He puts Cody on the ropes a little bit. If they go with this being the finale, I'm going to come back to this later when we talk about the other match. I think it'll be because they are not confident in having something else to happen. But I'm also kind of thinking that this might be the opening match of the night.
They do tend to do that. I can see this opening the show.
Start off with Cody. You go to maybe
Women's tag
Bianca
titles.
and Jade, and then you go Sami and Chad. Then you go Bayley and Piper. Then you go Priest and McIntyre. In between, you have a million ads for a million different things and a lot of video packages. You know. How you guys feeling about Cody and?
You were definitely emphasizing the submission aspect of this. I kind of see the ending being like what these usually are, where Cody's just gonna try to do something so batshit to AJ that AJ's just gonna cower away and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I quit." Like, because that could be anything. That could be like, he could have a barbed wire bat. He could, maybe there's some kind of staging that he can throw him off of or something. But I think this will be a fun match. And I quit matches back in the day when like blood was allowed, and I hope Cody does bleed during this one. It used to be some of my favorite matches because it would really feel like, oh, they're trying to kill each other. And I'd like a little bit of that vibe here, but we're still in a weird transitional era. But I'm very excited for this.
Well, I think that because Cody's a very much a Cena type babyface, so him, when you immediately say that he's going to be in an I Quit match, I'm kind of, get a little bit glazed over because there's no way that he's going to quit unless they do some sort of, shenanigan style thing where it's either a recording of him saying I quit, or it's, AJ goes after a fan in the audience and Cody says, "No, I quit. You can't hurt a fan." That kind of like, the thing that everyone hates Superman for, that kind of attitude. But I think that, but I think that it's pretty obvious that Cody's going to win. So I don't know. It'll probably be a good match. The last one was a good match, so I can only anticipate that this will follow suit. But
it's the Cody curse. It's going to be a good match. There's no way Cody's losing. So we're once again just left with a foregone conclusion.
Don't get me wrong. I would be much happier, not because I don't like Cody. I do like Cody, but that if he were to lose that, because I just don't think that we need to have, especially with the world champions, not every single one of them, but I don't think we need to just have a feeling of, oh, this guy is so much above everyone else that he can't possibly lose. We just had 3 years of that with Roman Reigns. And I know it's only been a few months with Cody, but Cody should feel more vulnerable than Roman. I'm not saying that he should just flat out lose this one, but I wouldn't say it'd have to be a long-term thing, but it could make things a bit more interesting with a feud if AJ was to somehow win the title here, and then Cody wins it back in a rematch at SummerSlam, and then, you have AJ kind of endorse Cody off the back of that as well. Just to give like AJ one final run, just to show that he's still got those veteran instincts about him. The realistic approach is that Cody will just retain, like, take out all members of the OC as well as AJ in the process, and then we'll see who they can manage to build up for him in time for SummerSlam, because they've already gone through Logan. So you'd imagine that, I guess, the next person up will be Solo, probably.
Yeah, are you just skipping Money in the Bank for Cody, or?
Cody will probably be on Money in the Bank, but he'll probably just have some rando title defense against, I don't know, whatever, like, babyface or heel of the week would be for that one. Because essentially there's been one kind of constant with all of these pay-per-views, even though it's only been like 4 or 5 matches. Cody's on every single show that he can be a part of. I don't think they'll change that, but they just rely on Cody's ability to draw and be a top name rather than the quality of his opponent.
KO in Toronto.
You could.
I mean, right now he's still feuding with the Bloodline, but then again, they could always just wrap it up. And
So I know people will talk about obviously doing Cody and like Randy at some point for maybe even SummerSlam, but I think they've waited kind of too long to do any sort of turn with Randy, and also Randy's not been on TV for the last like 3 weeks or so. So I think that's like if they were to have been doing that, they would have been putting some wheels in motion for that now. Whereas they are clearly doing something with the Bloodline, so Solo feels like an obvious fit for that. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I know it's like looking ahead too far, but it's almost certain that Cody's going to retain. And yeah, I believe that this probably will be the match that goes on first, just to bookend with the 2 world title matches.
And to be clear,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to Callum's point, like, I'd love for AJ Styles to win here. Again, it's not, and I don't like Cody. It's, hey, he's AJ Styles. Don't act like he's a scrub, and let's not do this thing where anyone who wins the world title is suddenly immortal.
What do you guys think that Cody is going to do on NXT tonight?
Get beat up by the Good Brothers?
I'd say cut a vacuous promo in order to just justify his purpose of being there, which is to boost NXT's ratings, so they beat AEW in the ratings this week.
Yeah, everybody seems to.
Well, that is the only reason. Stop saying that. Like that's leaning to it. That's the obvious reason. He's going on that show, and also the New Catch Republic is going to be on this show. So they're moving main roster people in it because NXT this week is not up against any sports competition. AEW next week is against Game 3 of the NBA Finals. So AEW is going to be hurting the ratings. This is an opportunity for NXT to boost up their ratings as far as they possibly can to make sure they beat them in both the number of viewers and the demographic. Cody is just there to just be there.
I'm not denying what you're saying. I'm just saying that when they had first announced this, I wasn't actually aware of that being the case, but that seems to just be the popular theory is, hey, look, this is what's happening, so this is what they're doing. I'd think it'd be cool if Cody did a little bit of a match. Cody versus, again, the Good Brothers are on NXT. Do Cody and Trick versus the Good Brothers.
As I say, I'm not proposing like that Cody won't do anything in terms of a match, but the reason for him being on NXT is because he is Cody Rhodes on NXT. That is kind of so he doesn't have to do anything, but he could do, as Rob says, like a match with Trick against the Good Brothers or someone else against the Good Brothers. Just pick random guy that you want to give some kind of rub to.
Is it the 5-year anniversary of Spears cracking him in the head with the chair?
Maybe he can have a backstage segment with Ethan Page and be like, yeah, I remember when I was your boss.
No, the reason I bring up Spears is because maybe that's... No, wait, does Spears have a match? Spears might have a match.
Spears has a match against Javon Evans tonight.
Yeah, because I was going to say, they might do that, which would be funny. No, I'd like to see Cody in a match, but he could just be like, I'm Cody Rhodes, and these used to be Dusty's kids. Oh, it is the 9-year anniversary of that. Of Dusty's passing. So there might be something to that.
Not that, like, I don't want to diminish it, but like the 9-year anniversary, it's like, well, the 10-year anniversary.
It's not 10. No, you're right. It's not 10.
That's what people try to do.
It gives Cody a chance to cry on TV, so you got to respect it.
Mm-hmm. And he is currently just announced as that'll be there. Yeah. That's it. So I'm not anticipating much when it comes to him like having a match or him announcing some kind of big, hey, it's going to be the Women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic or something along those lines. I kind of feel like he might just have some kind of a segment with the Good Brothers because the Good Brothers are still hanging around in NXT. So maybe it's Cody and Axiom and Nathan Fraser in a segment, and
shit, they can't bring AJ to NXT as a surprise and just do the 6-man.
Maybe they are like, maybe the Good Brothers attack Axiom and Fraser, and Cody comes out and helps or something, and then AJ attacks him. Yeah. It would be weird to me if they just have him be like, hey, congrats, Kalani. Although I'm sure we're going to get something like that too. But here's where I'm going back to that other point that I was making before. Depending on what they end up doing with the finale of this pay-per-view, I'm leaning more towards Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight title. And in part, it's because Drew McIntyre is Scottish. But also in part, I think that CM Punk is going to come out. Yeah. And I think he's going to screw Drew McIntyre because the stipulation for this is the Judgment Day is not able to be ringside. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't necessarily apply to Carlito. Because Carlito
have to, but it should.
It should, but they've made it a point now to have on the little lower third when they just showed them in the backstage segments, it said the Judgment Day with Carlito. So
right, but at the very end of Raw, Priest when they all did the fist thing. Right. Priest was like, you're in, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that maybe it's a red herring, maybe it's something unintentional, but I look at that more as like, it seems like it's like Carlito could potentially interfere. But I think that the big twist is going to be, it's not the Judgment Day that interferes, it's CM Punk. And
yeah, I think that's what it is.
If you have Drew McIntyre lose, the crowd might be upset. They might not be, depending on, how much they really want to chant for McIntyre as a heel. But if you have him lose in a way where Punk comes out, then people are going to be happy because they got to see CM Punk. And if the pay-per-view ends with CM Punk in the ring and McIntyre being all pissy, probably not singing like the last Castle, then I think that is probably what they're going to do.
I think Punk should sing.
Maybe he'll sing the same exact songs.
No, I think this is the whole reason for banning Judgment Day and for having Drew McIntyre act super babyface last night is because, hey, he's feeling good. He feels like he finally might get this monkey off his back so he can be less toxic. He can be happy again. And out there goes CM Punk bringing toxicity out of everybody. Look at him. That's what I think the story is. It's just like Drew McIntyre wants to be a happy guy. He never turned heel. Like, I fucking hate everything. He's just like, man, I'm tired. I've been tired since Clash 22. And it's annoying. And every time he gets a happy break, here comes somebody to ruin his good day. And I think that's just what CM Punk is going to do here.
Yeah, I can anticipate CM Punk coming out to cost McIntyre, to cause a bit of a distraction, get Damian Priest victory. I mean, they've kind of resented it in stacking the deck against Damian Priest by having all the Judgment Day banned from ringside. So, kind of when they put that stipulation in place, it probably means that McIntyre, the Priest is going to overcome those odds and retain. I'm interested to see how this match is kind of laid out because you'd imagine McIntyre would be like the babyface, but he's not really a babyface, and they seem to be on the course of maybe turning Priest babyface at some point as well. It's kind of like this weird situation where one of them is obviously the babyface in that country, but he's definitively a heel everywhere else, and the other guy is in the process of turning babyface, but he has to be heel for this one. So, yeah, so the dynamics might be a little bit off. I don't imagine this match will be, I'm sure it'll be good. I don't think it'll be particularly blow away or memorable based on the guys involved. But yeah, Punk comes out, costs McIntyre, maybe just does the blower kiss thing on the ramp before going away. Maybe the crowd turn on him off the back of that, but Punk won't mind that. It's just a one-off crowd. He's not going to have to perform in front of Scotland again, or at least not for a while. And yeah, it sets the wheels in motion for what I see as the likely scenario of Gunther versus Priest for the championship at SummerSlam, and then McIntyre probably wins Money in the Bank.
Are you thinking McIntyre for Money in the Bank?
Yeah, I'd say so. The only reason I'm thinking that is because, and other people have mentioned it as well, but I think that it's a sound idea. Is that McIntyre has, in some of his promos, been saying he hates Money in the Bank, obviously because he lost it to Damian Priest that way. So what better way to be the hypocrite that he is than to win the Money in the Bank himself and then use that to win the title at some point?
He just
Cashing
did
in
an
on
interview
Gunther?
with
No, cashing in on CM Punk.
he just did an interview with the Indian Express, and he said, "I can't stand Money in the Bank, can't stand the briefcase. I understand the point is to cash it in and win the title, but it's the reason I lost my 2 world titles. So I hate that stupid briefcase."
Yeah, he's winning the briefcase. So
See, I don't know who I'm leaning towards right now because
He could do like a
originally I
Naito
thought
for the briefcase, where he just beats the shit out of it
maybe
on the way to cashing it in.
who had the worst? Rollins?
In terms of beat up,
Like beaten up, yeah.
it's either Rollins or Ziggler.
Because they both had it like pretty dented by the time they were cashing in. I don't know. I thought that Sami Zayn would, but definitely not leaning towards that direction right now.
Unless he just loses it and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm going for a world. I'm a world champion." Money in the Bank. Maybe Solo.
For
We gotta
Money
get
in
a
the Bank?
bloodline. Yeah, we gotta get a bloodline guy in there.
Well, obviously that's not happening quite yet. We still have Clash at the Castle, so those are the 5 matches that are currently announced, and by the time we get around to the hot tags, we'll not have known what SmackDown has in store, but when it comes to Cody Rhodes tonight on NXT, we'll know that. So if anything does change, we'll talk about that on the hot tags, and if they do end up adding another match to it, we'll roll that into the live coverage and talk about it on the post show. Currently still planning on doing a post show and still being around for that. But the time of when that's going to be, I don't know, because it kind of all depends on when WWE wants to end that pay-per-view. Might be 4, might be 5, maybe 6, might be 9. Might be 3 weeks from now, probably now. Gotta go cramming even more ads. But in the meantime, let us know what you guys think. What do you have in mind for what is in store for this pay-per-view? What do you think about our ideas? Any of that kind of stuff. Keep in mind that you should be checking out all the stuff on smarkmomo.com, checking out fanboysanonymous.com as well. All the things on the link tree. Go to amangotree.com and you'll find links to all different sorts of social medias and stuff. I'm going to add as soon as I can, kind of. It's not something that's like immediately like, oh, I got to do this on the link tree. There's some important things to do, but I'm going to add my link to my Collider profile and my What Culture profile. So that's cool. Follow all those things. Make sure that you are passing us around on Facebook and Twitter and posting us on Reddit or what all. Hit the like button on this. Subscribe to the Patreon or any other kind of monetary means that you guys have that you can help us out with. And make sure you're not just following me, but you are also following Rob and Callum.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Fleece. Check out Fightful.com for all things Clash at the Castle. Check out anything else I've got going on by checking out DudeFleece.com and all the links that you will see there. And hopefully there will be more things to promote coming soon. Also, you should check out Fanboys Anonymous. Not only because it's Tony's sister site, but there's an article up there from me about X-Men video games. And it would mean a lot if you read it. But also check out what Callum has going on.
So you can follow me on Twitter at WeekNice14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday on smarkmomo.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their prior week's performances. And then you can also check out the Fantasy League, because the results of Clash of the Castle definitely influenced that. It will be another pay-per-view cycle, which means at the end of this, one member of our team will be eliminated. We'll maybe have the opportunity to swap maybe one or more depending on the results of the who wins predictions. As we're pretty much all going for the same people, it will come down to the time for you again, which is pretty much how every Triple H pay-per-view goes at this rate in time.
Yeah, it's been happening quite a bit lately, right?
I'll say this. We're in a holding pattern with WWE. It's better than the one we were in with Vince, but it's still a holding pattern, and I don't know if I like it.
But yeah, check it out over at www.fantasyleague.com or find it over through the Smark Home website to see, and we'll obviously report back on who's won this week's predictions and any updates made to our team. You can check it all out there.
Okie dokie, everybody. You know the score. That means that we are off for the pay-per-view point predictions, but we do have the pay-per-view point post show coming up after the show on Saturday afternoon. So stay tuned for that. Hot tags coming up before that. Dark Cat's coming up at some point this month. We haven't quite figured that out yet, but probably not this week. Probably next week. If you have any ideas for that, let me know. We'll try to keep that in mind.
We gave you a Dark Cast. Check out that NXT.
We essentially did. I mean, there's
podcast.
An hour and a half of a 2-hour podcast. It's basically just us goofing around and talking about Drew's,
literally anything else.
Drew's thoughts on different flowers and like yeah, it's a real good pitch there for me, right? To be like, listen to Drew talk about flowers. But no, it's a lot of fun being able to hang out and talk about that stuff. So check that out if you haven't already. And we will be seeing you when we see you, everybody. Adios for now. This has been another Smark Out moment. And we're being counted out.